I'd like to talk to you about the tremendous change that's taking place in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, unprecedented change, and the efforts that the leadership in the kingdom is making to bring about this change, not just domestically, but also through our foreign policies, an agenda designed to bring about lasting peace and security and prosperity for the region and for the world. It's important for nations to take the time and energy to reflect on where they've come from and where they're headed. It's not something that comes without risk. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to admit your shortcomings. You have to establish priorities, meaning some ideas make the cut and some don't. You have to challenge short and long-held notions and concepts. You have to be willing to make small changes where things are working and could be better, and big changes where things are off track and not working at all. Changes that not just transform laws and government policies, but also social norms and cultural behaviors. Changes that require national commitment and secure buy-in from citizens, who hand in hand with the government share the responsibility for implementing these reforms and making this transformation. That's what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is doing. It's a bold and decisive transformational agenda that we call Vision 2030. Vision 2030, led by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, under the guidance of His Majesty King Salman bin Abdulaziz, is a sweeping initiative of economic and social transformation, a positive, forward-looking plan for our future. We began the journey of Vision 2030 by asking ourselves, if we want to be an economic leader of the 21st century, if we want to find a way to move away from our dependence on oil and become a global leader in diverse business sectors such as high-tech manufacturing, digital innovation, green energy, artificial intelligence, in environmental conservation and sustainability, and in entertainment and tourism, how do we do that? And we went to work. We implemented sweeping changes to our businesses and economic strategies across all sectors and all levels of the economy. For example, we're developing our private sector through broad privatization programs, $1 billion investment in an incubator fund to support Saudi SMEs, and workforce training programs to prepare all Saudis for the 21st century workplace. We also asked ourselves, if we want to create a more equitable, more inclusive society, where everyone is welcome, where everyone can be a meaningful participant, where everyone can prosper, satisfy their ambitions, and utilize their talents, how do we do it? We recognize that one of the most important goals for Saudi Arabia is gender equity. The progress has far exceeded our expectations. For example, our goal wasn't to increase women's share of the workforce by 24% by 2020. We hit and exceeded that goal by the end of 2019, with women's share of the workforce now at 27% and growing. If we want to set an example for the region, make the case for modernization rather than extremism, diplomacy instead of belligerence, inclusion and diversity without prejudice, then we need to show the way, and with Vision 2030 we are. The Kingdom is investing tens of billions in a strategic education reform initiative, billions more in a curriculum reform, and teacher training, and we're opening ourselves up to the world through the establishment of a national tourism industry. But Vision 2030 is not just about the future of Saudi Arabia, it's also about the betterment of the planet. We believe that Saudi global leadership can bring people together, make a stand for tolerance, encourage interfaith dialogue, embrace cooperation between Christian, Jewish, and Muslim communities, and encourage the Muslim community's responsibility to deter animosity and violence. To achieve these goals, Saudi Arabia must lead. And that's with Vision. But still, a Saudi Arabia too often misunderstood, our remarkable progress, reform, and change too often overlooked. Some critics still cling to outdated, outmoded, completely obsolete views of the kingdom. Saudi Arabia takes a lot of heat, and not just because we're in a desert. We recognize that we need to do a better job of correcting an inaccurate and distorted narrative. So, when we're labeled an extremist, we need to remind people that Saudi Arabia does not tolerate extremism within our borders or anywhere else in the world. We are the United States' strongest, most reliable partner against extremism. Together, we go after the men, the money, and the mindset that supports terrorism and extremism. Every day, our militaries are training together, conducting anti-terrorism operations together, and shutting down terrorist sources of money together. When it's suggested that our recent social changes are somehow only for show, not real, we hope that people are able to see our remarkable progress, that women now have private and public sector leadership positions, that women's participation and empowerment is a driving force in the nation's workplace, that the creative arts and entertainment are flourishing, pushing the boundaries of expression, challenging what was acceptable, that cinemas and theaters are opening, concerts and performances with international entertainers occurring, and street festivals taking place all over the country. To give you just a small example, last year, the nation's General Entertainment Authority hosted more than 6,000 events across the country, with more than 27 million in attendance. When we are challenged on human rights, we need to better explain that change doesn't happen all at once. Change is incremental. Progress is not a straight line, but curved. And that what matters most is that the bend of the curve is towards equity, equality, diversity, and inclusion, in line with our values, culture. Now let's look elsewhere, where Saudi Arabia and the United States work together on Middle East peace. The kingdom has always been at the forefront of efforts to bring peace and security to the region, to securing a just and comprehensive resolution to the Palestinian and Israeli conflict. Because one of the most important steps in securing regional stability is a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. Since as far back as the 1980s, we've led efforts to reach a peaceful agreement, including the Arab Peace Initiative, designed to protect the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, provide security for both Palestine and Israel, and the kingdom has always encouraged dialogue and direct peace negotiations between the Palestinians and Israeli and others.